Hi, welcome back to the next episode of the Keto Naturopath. I'm Dr. Carl Goldkamp. Today we have a special situation here. It's neither a field trip nor is it a full-on presentation. What we thought we would do, and it was rather spontaneous on our part, is to bring you into our house and share a day of what we eat for an entire day. So you see what we select, and so you really get to know that this protein-sparing, modified, fast way of eating is really how we do life. We have days on and days off. It's not that disciplined, as you will see. It's a lot messier than you think. But I wanted to take you through the day. Stay to the end because I'm going to analyze it. I'm going to add up the calories, the proteins, the grams of proteins, fat, and carbohydrate. And I want to tell you a little bit why I think dry farm wine is very special. But mostly I want to go through the data so you know how we eat and did we make our mark? Did we miss our mark? See you at the other end.
Well, welcome to a day in the life of Carl and Judy. Today we're going to show you what we eat in a day. It's a non-PSMF day, so it's different than on PSMF days. So my breakfast today, I have a turkey sausage burger, an egg yolk waffle that I have toasted with a little bit of mayonnaise on it. So that is my breakfast. I get to have egg yolk waffle and a little bit of mayo on my non-PSMF days. I pretty much have a turkey or chicken sausage burger every morning because that's the amount of grams of protein that I need for breakfast. And of course, my black coffee. I have black coffee with a little bit of salt in it to take away the bitterness. And I'm pretty hungry right now, so here I go. I shouldn't have taken such a big bite because now I can't tell. But this is absolutely delicious. Turkey sausage burger, a little bit of mayo, egg yolk waffle, and my coffee.
All right, so I'm going to show you about our refrigerator. Impromptu, not cleaned up. This is a day in the life of, as Judy said. So Judy just had breakfast. I don't even call it breakfast. Here's what we have. Here's this week's leftovers. There's not much. There's some pork, there's some turkey burgers, and there's a chicken breast in there. Some of that I might have. I'm not particularly hungry right now. But I'm going to put this back. Here's some stew that Judy had made, which is also the rest leftovers. These are all the egg yolk waffles that you can see come in abundance, and you can work them in. This is our daytime protein bread, so it's garlic rosemary that Judy makes. And here's our evening crumpets. So you've seen these before. It's a protein bread. So we sort of have it worked out. Over here, that's just basically our coffee grounds and eggshells that we put out in the garden. Some of these are basically what Judy uses for her cooking recipes that she puts up. So the last time I had an avocado was she made a, what'd you make, Judy? You made the shrimp and avocado cocktail, which is, you'll see this is a cheese drawer, which basically never gets used. This is remnants of some veggies that she's used in her cooking for that particular item and a few others when she did another one. Tons of eggs. Here's our mayo. The rest is basically spices. Here's our jalapeno pepper jelly. Relish, sorry. There's no sugar in it. Here's our pesto that we make on a regular basis. There's more of the jalapeno, hot jalapeno, because the seeds are in it. And what do we have over here? Here we have our selection of fats. We have you have the pork fat, you have the lamb fat, which is suet, and we have, here's some leftover coconut milk, I think. And then we have beef fat and we have pork fat. So it's kind of a delicatessen of fats, which is kind of fun to use because Judy uses them in cooking. So what am I going to have for breakfast? What I do, and my days on and days off are not that different. I'm going to unwrap this, and actually I'll be rather specific. Okay, so what we want to do is measure everything we eat in the course of one day. So all the numbers are going to be out there. It's not going to be any sort of nothing hidden up our sleeves, so to say. So, for instance, this is going to be my quote-unquote breakfast, my first protein, and it's about 9:30 in the morning. About 9:30 in the morning, we have 85 grams of pork, lean pork loin. That's what I'm going to have. And so I'll plug that into your chronometer and you'll see what that is. But we have on the scale 85. Judy already has her turkey burgers measured out, so we'll put that in later. And anything else I have, I'll measure out, so you'll see. This is fine for me right now. Okay, I'm hungry. So it's about 11 o'clock. I'm going to have my next food for the day. So what we have of the leftovers, I have the remaining pork loin. So that's 50 grams of the pork loin and skinless grilled chicken breast. That's 88 grams of the skinless grilled chicken breast. So that's what I'm going to be having now. Next time I'll probably eat will probably be about 3:30 this afternoon, and then dinner at 5:30.
Well, it's lunchtime now. It's about 12:30, and I'm having my lunch. I'm having leftover hamburger soup. All it is ground beef made into little meatballs. It's just ground beef, no spices, and bone broth that I made, beef bone broth. So this I make in the slow cooker, and I cook up a lot because it's so good and it's so easy. So what I'm having now is about 6 ounces of ground beef, and I will probably drink maybe a cup of the broth. So it'll be 6 ounces ground beef, a cup of the broth, and that'll be my lunch. It's a little bigger lunch than I normally have because we had these leftovers and I wanted to use it up. So until dinner time, that's my lunch.
Okay, so here we are. It's about 2:15. I'm doing either mid-afternoon snack. Judy has made these, they're like the waffles, the egg yolk waffles. It's an egg yolk crepes in essence, so that's what I'm using. It's one of our newer experiments. So little mayo, and I'm going to add a little C8, caprylic acid triglyceride, because I like it. Makes everything taste good. It's a saturated fat, so I'll put that into the calculator. I know, kind of soupy, huh? But I guarantee it makes it taste a lot better. So I put that on top. Get rid of that. I'm going to cut this. And I know it's going to be sloppy, so I'm going to keep the plate under it. But this is basically it. I think I'll just eat half. I'll come back for another half. Maybe later today, maybe tomorrow. There you go. Well, now it's about 4:15, and on our weekends, we have a routine, I guess, a real treat, is we have some dry farm wines. So that's dry farm wines, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But I got to decork it, which is a fun thing. There we go. So what dry farm wines is, it's wine that has been allowed to go to complete fermentation, so there's very little in the way of sugar in it. So another way of saying it, it's a very dry wine, generally speaking, hence dry farm wines. But they're also from, I believe, organic farms throughout Europe, primarily. And so why do we like this so much? It's just a fun treat. It's a big deal for us on the weekends to have our wines and sit out. We're going to go outside and catch a little sun. We're still some sun here in the evening here in eastern North Carolina, but this is our treat. So to you, hope you can join us.
Well, dinner tonight is salmon, and we have this beautiful Alaskan wild-caught salmon that we're going to grill. I will be topping it with homemade pesto, putting it on the grill, and we'll show you what it looks like when it's cooked.
All right, Judy's cooked the salmon with a pesto, garden pesto on it. And I have here, I've already measured it out, it's 430 grams. It's roughly just under a pound, 15.2 ounces, should you want to know. I don't know what Judy's is, but this is what I'm having. This is what I'm having. So here's the salmon. Here's the salmon that's drooling over the table now. But it's excellent. It's just excellent. I look forward to doing this. What I might add to this, I might put a little MCT oil on it, a caprylic C8 oil on it. I may or may not. It's fine by itself. There's a little more left over. This is how we accumulate our leftovers. And that's it. We have one more thing to show you for the end of the day, and that will be our crumpets for after dinner.
So we've had our salmon. It was absolutely delicious. I love salmon, wild-caught salmon. So now it's after dinner, our tea and crumpets. And what we have for tea and crumpets, we each get our own pot of tea. This is about 3 cups of tea each. It's chamomile tea. And then our crumpets are my cinnamon bread. So we each have, sometimes I have 2, sometimes 3, depending on how much dinner. So we have our crumpets and tea. And that's our after dinner treat. It's amazing.
All right, now let's get started to see what the numbers turned up. Now that you see how we eat, you're probably surprised. You know, I'm 95% leftovers, right? We have dinner and I find it just so delicious that it's still delicious the next day, 2 days later, 3 days later, and so it goes. That's pretty much my life. And then Judy makes a lot of special things. Most of those get actually put in the freezer. I don't eat most of them because I don't want them. I don't have that kind of craving. So here we go. What we eat in a day. You saw in the morning she had turkey burger, her egg yolk waffle, and a little mayo. So we added all that up, and we came out with 38 grams of protein, 17 grams of fat, 1 gram of carbs. I had the pork, the 85 grams of pork loin, 25 grams of protein, 8 grams of fat, 180 calories total. Late morning, she had her leftover hamburger soup, that we're going to call it. So it's about 6 ounces of ground beef. I had the 88 grams of chicken breast and 50 grams of pork loin. So hers totaled up with 40 grams of protein, 27 fat, no carbs, and 410 calories in total. Mine was pretty much the same, 42 grams of protein, 8 grams of fat, no carbs, 340 calories. Early afternoon, she didn't have anything. I ate that whole thing. I ate the whole egg yolk crepe and the turkey burger with some of the MCT oil, the C8, caprylic acid, and some mayo. And so that gave me another nearly 40 grams of protein, 28 grams of fat, 1 gram of carb. That's almost a little over 450 calories. Then for dinner, we had the dry farm wine. So you saw that. I had 2 glasses. She had 1. For dinner, we had the grilled salmon, and she had half what I had. So I measured mine, which 430 grams. That means it was 85 grams of protein, 17 grams of fat, really good fat, of course, no carbs. And to that, I added, I had the 3 slices of the crumpets that she calls them, the 3 protein bread. So we add these together. So my dinner was 100 grams of protein. So that's a lot of protein. It was more than I really wanted to have. I mean, I just carved off a piece. I could have had about half that. And 20 grams of fat, and Judy had a little bit less. So for the day, she comes up total with 135 grams of protein. I'm 205 grams of protein. She has 55 fat, 4 grams of carbs. We're both 4 grams of carbs. And she's about 1,200 calories for the day, and I'm about 1,700 for the day. But what I wanted to show you is that here's where, here's our goal, right? So she's a smaller person, so her total requirement for protein is, call it 110 grams of protein per day. And that would be 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. She weighs less than 108 now. Small difference. And she should have at least 20 grams per. So let's zip up from the beginning. So with Judy, she had more than 20, good, more than 20, good, and certainly more than 20. So for myself though, my total should be at least 160 grams, 162 grams of protein for the day, and try to have 30 grams at any one time. Let's see how I did. Okay, so I had 25 total. I was a little under my maximum. Why do I want to have at least 30 grams? To give my maximum protein muscle stimulus, strictly on the amount of protein that I'm having. So in the pork was only 25 grams of protein. The chicken breast, leftover, pork loins, leftovers, was over the 30, so that was good. Early afternoon, 38, that was good. That was the egg yolk crepe and the turkey burger. And then for dinner, obviously I was way over. So for my total for the day, way down here, 205, that was clearly way over the top. Wasn't too much protein, but it was more than I usually have. I haven't measured any of these things out for years, nor has Judy, other than when we started doing this a couple years ago. And it's really interesting when people say, oh, I can't eat this much protein. Well, I clearly overate protein, and she overate protein. She ate far over her 108 grams of protein that she's required. So when people say, oh, they can't eat this much protein, what that means is they're trying to look at Carl and Judy's protein sparing fast, modified fast program and add that to what they're doing. And yeah, it's too much. This is about eating whole food sources of protein. You're having it unprocessed and you're taking the fat in with it. You're trimming the excess fat, of course. So if it's ribeye, you trim it. If it's the pork, you trim that extra part out, which these were pre-trimmed. I mean, I had trimmed them before. And so this is the gist of it. And so with that, you're getting plenty of fat. Look at that, 55 grams of fat, 48 grams of fat per day, plus the protein. The calories are fine. So there's no real risk of not having enough fat, and I even added fat because I like more fat. So it's a buffer. It's a really safe thing to do if you deal with whole food sources of protein. If you're going to try to be a biohacker and go to powdered protein as your form of protein, you're going to get into trouble and you're going to be fat deficit. And you say, what if I have a lot of fat? You know, I'm a fat person. That would be partially helpful, but what's going to happen is that you're going to deprive yourself of essential fatty acids, and that's going to hit you neurologically first, okay? So I wanted to show you where I got the information. I basically got this out of Chronometer. So instead of me plugging it into Chronometer, we had too many handcrafted entities, like the turkey burgers were Judy's, the mayo was Judy's, the protein bread was Judy's, so they would have to be made into a special entry and then be used, and I didn't want to spend the time doing that right now. I've done that before in other things, but not now. All right, now I want to show you a little bit of dry farm wines and why that is unique. And it's just not a sales thing, it's a concept, and you really ought to know this. Okay, this is the back of the bottle of dry farm wines, and I wanted to point this out. What this is, these are European wines that are from small farms. That's the first or second criteria. The first criteria is they have to be wines that are allowed to go to complete fermentation. The reason they would go to complete fermentation is because they would have lower sugar. And so it's a sugarless wine. That's why they're called dry wines, by the way. You let all the sugar be fermented, it's a dry wine. It's not a sweet wine, just the opposite. But the nice thing is, these are all from small farms. These aren't the big vineyards. This isn't like big vineyards in Bordeaux or wherever. These are small farms, and they're also tested. And so why is that? Because in the United States, the wine lobby is huge. And I know you might like your favorite American wine, but in your favorite American wine, they're allowed to put a lot of other crap in there. And it's just like the labeling laws in the United States. They don't have to put everything that's in their wine. However, in Europe, in these particular farms, everything that's in the bottle has to be in the bottle. It has to be real wine without all the extras in there. So that's the second thing. I really like the purity. I like the fact that I don't have to worry about all the little chemicals that might have been used for preservatives and so on and so forth. And I do like the fact that they've gone to complete fermentation. So you can call this a keto wine if you want to. Todd White is the guy who started this. I've met him a couple times, way back in 2015. It's just remarkable. I hope you care to take a look at it, there's a link in the description of this video for it. It's not a sales pitch. It's a concept that I think you ought to be aware of. I can't say enough for this idea of doing this, and it sounds like a fun job too. All right, till next time, take care. Bye-bye.